Yo, what's going on YouTube? This your boy Kamen Zero Spike back again once again. And today, people, today we here for Avataro Sentai Donbrothers episode 33. And this episode is the return of Sonoi. Sonoi has officially returned in his new body and new personality. So the episode starts off with the rest of the Donbrothers talking about, hey, what happened to Tato, and they're speculating that maybe Tato was actually defeated by Sonoi, and they haven't seen Tato at all. Like, even people at his job, as the other delivery guys, are even worried about him as well. So they still feel like, oh, hey, maybe he has to still be alive. This is Tato we're talking about. So we end up going to the Sarah brand. The Sarah brand they see Sonoi. Sonoi appears in front of the other two, and he has a whole different personality. He's calling them his companions, stuff like that. And they're like, we're not your companions. We're your fellow Sarah brand. Like, we're not your companions. We're all equals here. So he ends up fighting them, and making them submit to him, basically forcing his leadership upon them. And they ended up submitting to him. They ended up doing that. I was like, man, y'all gave up kind of quickly, because he actually ends up fighting them, and actually fight wasn't even that long. So we end up seeing that after they end up being defeated, we see the Don Murasame sword he ends up leaving Sonoi. He ends up leaving Sonoza. Ends up packing up and just leaving Sonoza. And then we end up seeing Don Tutterbolt. He is basically he's picked up Tato and trying to, like, he doesn't know how to basically nurse Tato back to health. He doesn't know what to do, but he does care for Tato to a degree. And he's like, if you die, basically I have kind of no purpose, because that's really that version of Jiru is kind of just like Tato is like his only reason really for existing, and he kind of needs Tato, hoping that Tato won't die. Then that's when Don Murasame ends up popping up next to Totobolt, and he tries to fight through Totobolt to get to Tato, to basically take Tato out, basically finish him off. After that, we end up seeing seeing Totobolt ends up winning. Well, he ends up pushing Murasame back for a while. It forces Murasame to retreat. When he forces Murasame to retreat, we see that Totobolt basically says that I need help. I need someone to take care of Tato. So he ends up taking Tato to Kaito, and he gives him to Kaito, and Kaito basically says, okay, bring him to my operating room. And then Totobolt's like, wait, what? You have a operating room? And he's like, yeah, the cafe is pretty stocked. So he has a full operating room in this freaking cafe under the place. So he ends up putting Tato on the operating place, and that's when Totobolt leaves. He ends up leaving and say, hey, he's in your hands now. So we end up seeing that while all that's happening, we see that Sonoi actually sends a message to the rest of the Donbrothers. They all see this message, and he says that I would like to have a discussion with all of you. I would like to have a discussion with all of you. But you all can still pick the place and the time. We see that Tsubasa completely ignores all of this, and he goes back to stalking Miho. When he goes back to stalking Miho, he actually follows her to her job and sees that where she works and stuff like that. And he reminds him of Natsumi. When it reminds him of Natsumi, he basically says that, this is how I met Natsumi. She was also like a beautician and stuff like that. He ends up going in there and getting a haircut from Miho, and that's when he full on decides that this has to be Natsumi. I know she's Natsumi. So we don't see Tsubasa like that for like the rest of the episode. So we go back to the Sarah brand, and when we go back to everyone back at the cafe, and they basically talk to Kaito, telling him that, oh, hey, we actually get ready to talk to the Sarah brand, and he was about to shut down the cafe so he can possibly go down there and operate on Tato. But that's when R3 Cerebran walk in, and that's when Sonoy actually tells the rest of them, "Hey, we need to have a discussion." And he talks to him. He talks to him, basically saying that you are all now my companions. And we see that Blue is like, "No, we're not gonna be your companions. We are, we're Tado's companions and stuff like that. And we would, if we're gonna become your companions, then that means we need to know more about you." So Blue tries to get Sonoy to tell them more about the Cerebran. So he says, and Sonoy's like, "No, I don't need to tell you none of that because you're beneath me." So that's when Kijino comes up with the idea to play different games to figure out, instead of fighting each other, to figure out what's the move, like what can we do to basically get some kind of information and stuff out of you. So they decide to play 3 different games. They play 3 different games in order to get answers from Sonoy. So they end up playing like this peanut game where you have to catch the peanut in your mouth, and we see that Blue ends up catching it in his mouth, and we get some information about what the Donbrothers actually are. Then Sonoy basically explains that the Donbrothers was basically created by the Don clan royal family. So everybody who is part of the Donbrothers is part of the royal family, or using powers from what the Don clan royal family ended up creating. So we see that Haruka, she does ask what is the Don clan, but Sonoy doesn't answer that. So they play another game. They end up playing a quiet game. They end up playing a quiet game to see who actually can be quiet the longest. Haruka ends up failing first because she ends up sneezing, and then we end up seeing. While that game is going on, we see that Kaito is trying to do all kinds of basically operate on Tado. While he's operating on Tado, he does get distracted a few times of what those crazy kids are doing upstairs. So he gets called to help Sonoy because Sonoy ends up choking on food. And after that, the second game goes on for too long. So Sonoy basically asks Kaito in basically sign language to basically give him a pen and paper so he can write, "This game has gone on too long, let's stop." So we end up seeing that, we see that Kaito basically says that, all right, your third game will be an eating contest. After he did operate on Kaito, he basically healed his wounds, but he didn't have the necessary energy to basically recover himself and wake up. So we end up seeing that while everyone's doing the big eating contest, we see that Kaito gets a bunch of like glasses, and he basically uses his using the Gatling blaster. I loved it. The Zenkai Gatling. He ends up using that and use it to siphon off some of their energy into this liquid, and each liquid is like their corresponding colors. And so he takes this liquid back down there to the operating area, and he makes Tado basically drink all of it. So when Tado drinks all of it, he's able to wake up. So we end up seeing that he basically ends up coming out of the operating room, and he tells them, he's like, "Wait, how?" And then Sonoy's like, "Wait, how are you still alive?" He says, "I have no bonds with heaven or hell." So, and he foreshadows to his new power. He basically says that I have no bonds with heaven or hell. So I basically immortal like a phoenix. And I'm like, oh wait, are you foreshadowing something? So he ended up so we see that the third game was Cerebrans can force humans technically to become Hitotsuki. We see that he forced our other 3 to basically become Hitotsuki, and by them saying that, oh hey, how are we gonna be lower than Sonoe? How are we gonna be lower than Sonoe and Sonoza? He's even though we have fought you're technically not stronger than us because we have fought you guys many times and to a standstill. So he basically says that, okay, if you cannot give in to your desires and not become a Hitotsuki, then then I'll actually consider all of y'all being equal to each other. So he actually makes their desires like manifest, and we see that everybody basically that all three of them ended up becoming Hitotsuki. Wow, all three of them ended up becoming Hitotsuki. But when Taro walks in, we see that we basically see everybody's like most deepest desires. Blue, his was, oh, he needs like more clothing, I guess. And Haruka was, oh, I need to create an awesome manga. And also we saw that Kijino, he ended up, his biggest, most greatest desire was Miho, his wife, and it was, I will never let anybody take you away from me. So when Taro walked in, we see that Haruka and Blue ended up turning back into their regular forms, but Kijino, because of how strong his desires was, he stayed a Hitotsuki. And also, when they turned into Hitotsuki, they all turned into the same one. Like, they all turned into like this Hitotsuki with like sun powers. So we end up seeing that Kijino ends up running out because he's phasing for he's basically, you know, spazzing out about Miho-chan. So we end up seeing that they end up fight. Our other three Don brothers ended up fighting, fighting Kijino. But we see the introduction to to Taro's new power. Taro's new power was the Phoenix. He was like, and when they saw it, it was like a little golden bird. Like, what is that? When he is getting this new power and transforming into Golden Momotaro. This form looks cool. I mean, it's basically just his regular suit, just with gold. Was it with the gold cape? Because, you know, every Sentai has to have that one form that got a cape. You know, so he ends up using that, and his primary weapon is just a blaster. It's like it's the Phoenix bot that comes and flies down, but it's just a blaster, really. And he ends up taking that and defeating Kijino. So no mech fight for this episode either. I guess they're saving that for the next episode because we are getting a new Megazord in this in the next episode. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, and this whole thing about the Sarah brand, about the Dawn Clan, you know, basically creating the Dawn brothers, which makes sense because they both have Dawn in their name. But it's actually very interesting, and I was hoping I was also the thing with, you know, the Sarah brand forcing humans to be able to become, you know, Hitotsuki and stuff like that, and also the fact that Kaito got a whole operating room down there in this freaking place. I mean, first he had like the whole piano, like the whole room with the piano in it. Now he got an operating room in it, and he's like, yeah, man, the cafe's pretty stocked up. And he made them so much. He made them loads of food, like big chunks of food. But I'm hoping that we get some more information on who basically created you know, the Dawn Clan, and how the Dawn Clan created the Dawn Brothers to basically take down Hitotsuki in a safe way, instead of just, you know, doing how the Sarah brands do and just banishing that human to that pocket dimension. But overall, this episode was cool. I don't know how to feel about Golden Momotaro, because I felt like, hey, we were eventually going to get some type of golden form, Frieza. But overall, the form looks cool. I like the aesthetic of it. I like the henshin sequence of it. It's actually pretty freaking dope. But other than that, like, I enjoyed this episode, man. This classic Dawn Brothers, basically kind of foreshadowing some more stuff. Maybe the Sarah brand teaming up with each other and stuff like that. And also, when is Tsubasa gonna find out who everybody is? I don't know. It has to be something. It has to be like a dire situation, I guess, at this point, for his identity to be revealed. But man, you guys let me know down in the comment section below. What you guys think of this episode of Dawn Brothers? Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Hit that notification bell, and I will see you guys next time. And remember, stay henshined.